In this video, I'm going to show you how we take 35mm slides and scan them into a digital format. This is the slide scanner I use. It's a Nikon Super Cool Scan 4000. Now this little machine on the left, this is a batch feeder. You can load 50 slides into it and it will scan it one after another without you having to physically do it. So you can put the slides in, leave, let it scan, and then come back when it's finished. This slide scanner is amazing. It will give you scans that are 4000 dpi, or dots per inch. That means you could print a poster that is about 13 by 18 inches. That's pretty good size. So with that said, this is an amazing scanner. However, it also comes with a pretty hefty price tag. This scanner has been around since 2001. That's when Nikon first announced it. And to this day, it is still one of the best scanners to scan 35mm slides. So people want it. It's in demand. And it's going to be pricey on eBay. However, that's probably the best place to get it. I saw it the other day, probably about $500-600 on eBay. And then if you want to get the batch feeder with it, the batch feeder is another couple $100. So if you wanted to go that route, it does get pretty expensive. Another thing you can do, you can send it to us. We could do it for you. I'll put my info in the description. But if you want to do it on your own, maybe get the equipment and then resell it again on eBay because it is still in demand. You can do it that way. So I'm going to show you how I scan it. If you wanted to do it on your own, here you go. This scanner, you can have it upright when you scan, but if you use the batch scanner, you need to put it on its side. It can also scan on its side. So you lay it on its side, pull down the little door, and you insert the slide feeder and then turn the slide scanner on. You'll see the little light blink in the front, and as soon as that light turns solid, you are ready to scan. Now we need to adjust the slide feeder. To adjust it, you just grab a slide that you're going to be transferring, you put it in between the metal gate and that white track, and you can adjust the metal gate with a little wheel on the feeder. That little wheel will make the opening between the gate and the slide either tighter or a little bit looser. You want it snug against the slide so that when the feeder pulls the slide in, it's only pulling in one slide at a time. So it needs to be the exact width of that slide. Now that the feeder is ready, let's get organized. So I have these little stickers that I put on slide boxes. For example, I just put number 8 on this box. So I'll create a corresponding folder and call it box number 8. That way, if I have a question about any of the slides in box number 8, I can refer back to it later in this folder. The next thing I do is I go through the box and I make sure the slides are all facing in the same direction. So I look for similarities on each side of the slide. A lot of the times it will have writing on it. These have a little box on one side and no box on the other side, and so I can tell which direction they go. So I make sure the slides are all facing in the same direction, so when I put them in the slide feeder, they'll all go in the correct way. Another note here, I didn't use gloves, but if you're afraid you might touch the slides, you might want to put gloves on because you do not want fingerprints when you scan the slides because those fingerprints can be seen in the scan. I've done this for many years and I usually just make sure that I'm holding it by the corners and not touching the film itself. Next, we need to figure out which side is the emulsion side. The emulsion side is rough. The picture also looks like it's painted on a little bit, and you can see here on this side, the slide is rough and it does look like it's kind of painted on. The side that is not the emulsion side is completely shiny. Look at the lights as they glare off on the side that is not the emulsion side. It's really shiny. It's not rough. It doesn't look like it's painted on. So now we know which side is the emulsion side and which side isn't. Now we'll insert the slides. We need to put the slides in the feeder with the emulsion side toward you. So that's the biggest thing you need to remember. You need to make sure that that emulsion side is facing toward you and not away from you. This is the software that we use for the scanner. I mentioned before that the scanner's been around for a really long time. It comes with software, but that software is also dated. There haven't been many updates with it. So we use this newer software. It's called ViewScan. We do have this software downloaded on a Mac computer, but you can also download it on a Windows as well. So it works on both Mac and PC. I'll put a link to it in the description. There are a couple of settings that we change on here. One is the resolution. 4000 dpi is way bigger than you really need for a project like this. So we change it to 2000 dpi. Another thing we do is make sure that it's checked for batch scanning, because we are doing batch scanning since we have the batch feeder. Next, we make sure that it's being scanned to the right location. Each batch, we usually change the location. For example, if we're scanning box number 8, we'll make sure that it scans to box number 8. If we're scanning box number 10, we make sure that all of those slides are scanned to box number 10, so that everything stays neat and organized. Another setting we look at is this JPEG file name. We go with this setting, the scan 0001 plus JPEG. The reason we do that is because we do batch scan and it will go one number up. So the first one will be 0001, next one will be 2, 3, and so forth. And so we just leave it at this setting, and then when we batch scan, it will put them in numerical order depending on the order that the machine scanned them in. And then after we've double checked all those settings, we go ahead and start scanning. So that's it. That's a look at how we do slide scanning. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments. Be sure to check out the description for links on equipment we used and software. If it helped you at all, please consider subscribing to the channel. And thank you so much for watching.